Hello from the One True Scale. This is part 2 of N-Scale Northeast Corridor 1983 to present. I'll cover wishlist suggestions and catenary, so hopefully we electric traction modelers can get more model variety than I showed in part 1. If you missed part 1, it was a video tour of my mile-long 4-track Northeast Corridor layout and a location quiz. Also, I gave brief reviews of the 5 passenger train combinations I can run. I really like watching my prototypical corridor trains going back and forth a long distance under 4-track catenary spans, even if they don't look anything like prototype Pennsylvania Railroad K-type catenary supports, with tall posts for high voltage power lines.
Stop wasting time. Get to your evil plan.
Oh, hi, evil me. There goes my viewer retention. Do you mean defeat the Axis powers, marry my childhood sweetheart, and assure Western aviation dominance for 50 years?
No, that was your dad's plan. Worked okay, though.
Assure N-scale electric dominance by giving away PRR catenary as cereal box prizes?
Are you nuts? Show them the spreadsheet. Every evil plan must start with a good spreadsheet.
Oh, the spreadsheet. Calm down, evil me. We're all on the same page here. My layout can generically model 100 years of the Northeast Corridor. I researched the electric power, quantities, and years used and put it in this spreadsheet. To model narrower time periods, I created my own NEC era system like the Europeans use. This focuses on changes like steam, electric, diesel, catenary, and concrete ties, as well as specific rolling stock and liveries. The spreadsheet, now filtered for the 4 eras of this video, shows 22 classes of electric power. Left side data is the prototype, right side data is the model. This full view is the best for you to pause for reading, but here I'll zoom in to the prototype data. Ratings are my model profitability guess. Classes are grouped together for different railroads and liveries. Units indicates how common, related to how popular. Scrolling down, the last 3 classes are ideas that I'm still developing for third rail models. That's enough for the spreadsheet for now. I'll give you the highlights of my wishlist models. Acela Express introduced high-speed Washington to Boston. 20 8-unit trains, 5 stars. Bachmann's 2005 model is pricey on eBay. What's wrong with this photo? Amtrak Aces 64 with SEPTA comic coaches. SEPTA has 15 of their own, 4 stars. Cato, you made the mold, now do the right thing. The Alp 46 with 65 units is more common on the corridor than the Alp 45 diesel, and has been there since 2001. 4 stars. Too bad there's only one livery. Or is there? Perhaps Saturn will do it like they did in HO. European and Japanese modelers get some boring trains so their exciting ones won't look out of place. 230 units of Jersey Aero 3s in around 10-unit consists have gone unnoticed by railfans since 1977, so 4 stars. 232 SEPTA Silverliner 4s are less present on the corridor, so 3 stars. No Silverliner 4 photos, but Aero 1 and 2 shown are similar. With their experience making EMUs, I would love to see Cato make 8-car book sets of Aeros and Silverliners.
Oh, maybe I should shave before I get donuts.
Fortunately, the 6 o'clock shadow on the real Avalia Liberty Acela trains is less noticeable than in the rendering. I like the livery, and 28 11-unit trains will soon be bringing higher speeds to the corridor, so 5 stars. Will Bachmann do it like they did in HO, or will Kato beat them to it with another in their World High-Speed Train collection? Conrail E44 in blue, black, or green, 66 units, gone by 85, 3 stars. I like the boxy looks and would also give high ratings to the Penn Central and Penzi units of the previous era, dating back to 59. E60 in Phase 2, 3, or 4B, 26 units, gone by 2003, 3 stars. This GG1 replacement could haul heavy trains, but not over 90 miles an hour like its predecessor. Speedy European locos were called to the rescue. Photo is 40-year-old Bachmann model. HHP-8 Amtrak Phase 5, 15 units, 98 to 14, unreliable, 3 stars. 6 identical Mark units with an orange stripe still in use, 1 star. The last 4 engines had disappointing careers in this era, but they are interesting looking and definitely add spice to a layout. I would buy a new Bachmann HHP-8. 61 powered Metroliner units were also interesting, but with a troubled career from 67 to 88. They briefly wore Penzi and Penn Central liveries, but I give 3 stars for Amtrak Phase 1, 2, or 3, and 2 stars for the 29 rebuilt roof bump versions that ran on the Keystone Corridor. I'll bet Rapido has been drooling over Metroliners to complement their turbos. Incidentally, 3 stars for the 29 Metroliners converted to cab cars still in use. For something completely different, how about third rail path trains that parallel the Northeast Corridor for a few miles north and south of Newark? 3 stars for the 422 Kawasaki PA5 units from 2008 to present. 3 stars also for the 347 quirky PA1 to PA4 cars from 1964 to 2011. There were aluminum, white, and stainless liveries and shape variations. Kato Japan has done similar small subway models, and I would like to see a 7 to 10 car box set. An excellent subject would be the last World Trade Center evacuation train, which also opened the temporary station in 2003. Hoo-wee! I almost forgot the most important electric of these eras. The only successful one that filled the 30-year gap between the GG1 and the Aces 64. The recently retired workhorse of 4 corridor railroads for 40 years. It's the AEM7 family, the Swedish meatball, the toaster, 125 miles per hour with 10 M fleets. 6 stars, yes, 6, for the very attractive 54 in Phase 3. Mark had 4 in this nice livery, but only 2 stars because unique 1 and 2 level coaches will never be available. No photos, but 3 stars for SEPTA 7, which pulled Comet coaches. 4 stars for New Jersey's 32 Alp 44s, which pulled Comet coaches. Finally, 5 stars for the 29 AC rebuilds in Phase 6. So, how are we N-scalers going to get this important locomotive family like HO got from Concours around 2010? Well, Shapeways has this 3D printed shell made by Imperial Hobby Productions. A completed one looked pretty good in a YouTube video, so I ordered one, along with its roof detail set for a reasonable price. I have a very nice Fleischmann Swedish RC4 and Swedish coaches. The shell fits snug and will probably go all the way down if I file 4 ledges on the chassis corners. Hard to see in translucent plastic, but details like corrugation, vents, and lights look pretty reasonable. So all I'd have to do is add paint, decals, windows, pantographs, insulators, hoses, truck suspension, and couplers, and I'd have an N-scale AIM 7. But with my luck, then 3 manufacturers will announce their AIM 7 families. Kato, Atlas, Athearn, Rapido, somebody, make this model. Don't make me build this kit first. No, let's not despair. I think there's a way to use the power of deductive reasoning and psychology to help these manufacturers give us what we want. They're an insular sort, you know. They'd probably rather watch a blind chicken pick out heritage liveries than go out and talk to us. We need to reach out to them with model suggestions. They know that any one of us who does that speaks for thousands. Show them that we get their business energy. Make them feel valued. Great idea. Got just the thing for that in the right side of the spreadsheet. These model companies have preferences you can see from the stuff they've done before. Kato likes iconic trains in box sets and roads like Penzi and Amtrak. They avoid minor prototypes and minor liveries. Rapido and Broadway Limited do more minor prototypes in all liveries for specific interests. For Rapido, it's Canadian, New Haven, commuter, and experimental trains. For BLI, it's classic steam and diesel and anything Penzi. Not sure if Concord is still producing, but they did a lot of Northeast Corridor in HO, especially EMUs. Athearn has an unusual fixation with multi-levels and New Jersey Transit. Atlas likes anything diesel and all liveries. They make this list because they made the AEM 7 for all variants and liveries in HO. Bachmann has been making the latest Amtrak trains ever since Amtrak began. Hopefully, once you decide what models you want to suggest, you can use this reasoning to decide what manufacturers to write to. For example, the appeal of an E44 might be esoteric to Rapido, Penzi to Broadway Limited, and diesel looks to Atlas.
So, your homework is to write letters of model suggestions to these companies. I want to see typing or at least good penmanship.
We do that on the internet now, Professor Me, but there's a problem. Only Kato and Rapido have actual suggestion forms online. For the rest, I guess you do have to write letters. Kato's form is pretty basic. I suggested the AIM 7 family and that it fills the 30-year gap between their GG1 and ACES 64. Also that it goes well with their Amfleet and Viewliner coaches. And I don't think it hurts to mention this video. Unfortunately, Kato's form scrambles your nice paragraphs by stripping out carriage returns, so next time I'm going to put in about 5 spaces after every period. Rapido's form is targeted, like TurboTax, but it's easy. Get it? Turbo? I suggested the AIM 7 family here too. They anticipate a family with physical differences and number produced. Year in and year out, previous models and operating region, liveries, which I cut-pasted from my spreadsheet. You can upload 10 images, any drawing or blueprint references you know of, previous model details, and any preserved prototypes. For reason to produce, just pretend Jason Schron is the godfather and you're asking for a favor. I also mentioned filling the 30-year power gap and pairing with Rapido comic coaches. For the ideal reason, you only get 25 letters. I flattered them with accuracy and DC not terrible. Well, I hope that many of you are going to write product suggestions. As Professor Me says, be the voice of thousands. Now, let's talk about a different Northeast Corridor modeling need, catenary. I hope you don't settle for a diesel layout like this and pretend your fine electrics run on lightning strikes. You got to put some kind of catenary up to show that you're an electric traction modeler. My layout needs catenary spans spaced 20 inches apart, or every 2 Kato 248 straights. For now, I'll use 4-track Kato Japanese spans that plug into bases attached to the track. They are vaguely similar to Reading, Lackawanna, New Haven, and parts of Europe. Now the big decision. Most Japanese don't include wires. Some Europeans use metal stuff that looks like drainage pipes. Real catenary wire diameter is about 1/2 inch or 3/1000 an N scale. Do you want to use it? Do this experiment. If you're good friends with a long-haired brunette, ask for some strands of her hair. If she doesn't slap you, string them on the spans of your 4-track mainline. Above for the catenary and below for the contact wire, and see how nice and scaled they look. Then try some track cleaning and re-railing stock with your fat fingers between the wires and ask yourself,
Do I want to make my model railroading a living heck?
wow, hope that settles it. I was all set to do some me-splaining about Kato Catenary and even made up this sushi tray catenary sampler. But I reread some of this excellent Sumida Crossing website that got me started on Japanese, and he explains it better. So I'll just focus on the Northeast Corridor modeling aspects. You have to pay more attention to loading gauge. Kato track height is 7 millimeters, almost 8 with the base. Kato's gauge is 44 from the railhead, so it clears the insulators at 53 by a millimeter. GG1 pantographs are at least 55, so interfere with the insulators by 2 millimeters. Same situation with the double-track girder bridge. Better to have 2 millimeters clearance like the double-track truss bridge. Good news is that auto racks and superliners have no problem. Kato USA shows these catenary spans I'll refer to as 56 through 64. I also have 58, 65, and 239, the Shinkansen Accessories set. Kato makes their double-track straight and arched styles in both narrow and wide versions. The wide versions increase the track-to-pole clearance for their tilting trains and Shinkansens by 7 millimeters for better clearance on curves. 61 to 64, which include bases, have the wider clearance. Wide above and narrow below both plug into Kato track on 33 millimeter centers. Back to the tray for visual details. I numbered the tracks 1 through 9 with the blue re-railer being track 10. 1 to 4 are 4-track, 5 and 6 are double-track, 7 and 8 are single as double-track, 9 is single-track. Note also the nice outdoor shadows. Indoors, either use a single strong light source or a very diffuse set of indirect sources. I want to spin the tray around. First, what's that tent structure on the 4-track? The Shinkansen Accessories Kit 239 gives you 1 tent and 5 of those catenary hangers on the tracks. Unfortunately, they're only meant for 2 tracks between platforms, but I think I can bash them to a 4-track situation like mine. The front row shows all the simplest straight spans with concrete poles. They are 64, 61, 60, and 59. These all are sturdy because they only mold the prototype filigrane structure in the front view. 64 has a rectangular cross-section, while 61 and 60 are triangular. Behind them, the Shinkansen high-voltage steel arch types are 62 and 57. Spinning the tray around again to see all types of single-track catenary. 5 gray concrete pole versions are all 59. You can see ways to use the long and short hanger versions. Middle row is 65, 3 Swiss light rail I-beams. Front row is 58, 3 filigrane metal structures also used for Ida railway bridges. The left side of the front row is 63 and another 64 to compare. Ignore the filigrane versus concrete poles. I suspect that the cross spans might actually be based on the same prototype. 63 seems to include all the internal cross bracing. It is a multi-part construction and is a little more expensive and fragile. The details are really stunning and look similar to some New Haven types. I wish they would do a 4-track version. It was this Facebook group comment that got me looking into Penzi and Catenary options. I found this on Shapeways made by Design, which you've seen in my photos. Check out Design's page and links. He has a mostly complete HO model of Philadelphia in his basement, and he knows a lot about Penzi Catenary. Design's 3D printed hundreds of things for his own layout and made some of them available in N. Compared to Kato, prices are about 5 times more for versatile plastic and 50 times more for detail plastic. He has 2 spans and 3 expensive signal bridges, so I ordered 2 each of the spans. The tall 4 tracks really add the Penzi look to my Trenton station. I would have to kit bash the extensions for the 8 tracks. Everything is too narrow for Kato's 33mm spacing. The insulators are 27.5. The bases interfere and would need about a 2mm chamfer. The poles barely allow trains to pass on straight tracks and would collide in a curve. The insulators are 3mm higher than Kato's, helping GG1 panto clearance. Design's dimensions are prototypical, but this would be more useful morphed to Kato track, which are close to industry average. If the square bottoms could be hollowed to plug into Kato bases, that would also be great. Versatile plastic is strong like nylon, but so translucent it's hard to photograph. I took them outside for details. The high-voltage horizontal insulators are extras that should be removed after shipping. Note the 4-track mismatch with Kato. The 2-track is actually closer. The track interference causes the K-brace to bow a bit. Note tiny wire holes in insulators, rivets, K-brace stair-stepping. 2-track wire holes are not quite open. Note granularity. Of course, paint will help the glowing translucency and the granularity. I think versatile plastic is nylon powder fused by laser. Note comparison to injection molding. Good view of cross-section shapes and stair-stepping. Note unmoldable detail of angle iron riveted to I-beam. Separate ladder rungs also can't be done in a one-piece injection mold. High voltage insulators and separate ladder rungs. Summing up, I'm glad my Catenary decision can wait till I finish modules and scenery. In a perfect world, I'd love to see Kato USA and the Design guy collaborate on a couple of types of Penzi injection molded Catenary for $2 to $5 a span. I think the multi-part modular approach Design uses in HO could bring the cost down that much for such a large injection molded part. I'm going to write this up as my next Kato USA model suggestion. My fallback plan is to convince Design to adapt to Kato track, make more PRR types, and try and reduce the cost with modularity. Well, congratulations and thanks, viewers, if you made it through part 1 and part 2. I hope some of these suggestions, especially Catenary, will get Northeast Corridor N modeling out of the rut of they won't make the stuff because there aren't enough of us, and we won't get into it because they don't make enough stuff. Please check the description for useful links and photo credits. Also, I'd appreciate your comments. My next shorter video will be running in the 1968 to 82 Rainbow era. After that, the 1930 to 1967 PRR era, both with a Wishlist. Maybe after that, New Haven. And as my grandpa used to say, let's show them Hanullers a thing or two about elektrische Eisenbahnen.